First story. I neglected my stepdaughter, used her for house chores and babysitting, and now broke my Christmas new phone promise and gave her my husband's old flip phone to teach her a lesson on responsibility and gave her my son a new iPad. My ungrateful stepdaughter sulked and bought a phone. I took it away and it ruined my life. I'm 47F. My husband 50M, and I have been married for about 12 years. We have an 8-year-old son together, and he has a daughter from a previous relationship 17F. We had custody of her from ages 7 to 13. Then she went to live with her mum full time, and contact dropped off after that. Not by our choice, but her mother made things very difficult. Her mum remarried and moved her way out into a rural town, and honestly, we couldn't do much from that distance. There were accusations of abuse and neglect, but by the time anything got moving legally, stepdaughter had already run away and was sleeping on a friend's couch. Then her mother and stepfather packed up and left the state after being hounded by CPS and served a foreclosure notice. They left her behind. Literally didn't even tell us. Just vanished. She's been staying with the friend's family ever since. When we found out what had happened, we got back in contact immediately. We drove up in December, brought her home for Christmas, and the plan is she'll move in with us permanently once she graduates in June. Since she's still living 2.5 hours away, my husband and I agreed she should have a phone to stay in contact. It's not like she had one before. Her mum always said they couldn't afford it. They had a house phone, but it was usually unplugged or used by her stepdad. Still, I wanted to be smart about what kind of phone we gave her. She's been careless with things before: phones, tablets, even school stuff. She either broke or lost everything, and she never had to pay to replace any of it. So I gave her one of my husband's old phones, a flip phone. It's sturdy, has basic texting and calls, and works fine for what she needs. No camera, no data, no social media apps. She was polite about it at first, but I could tell she wasn't thrilled. Later, she told my husband she hates using T9 texting and can't even send photos. She said it's pointless and embarrassing to try to connect with friends using it. She asked for a tablet for Christmas, but I told her she had more important needs. She needed clothes, socks, shoes, actual basics. I also gave the family she's staying with a couple of grocery store gift cards as a way to support them too. I reminded her she's lucky we even remembered her after all this time. We've housed her when no one else would. She's not paying a cent, and she's about to move into our home full time again. Meanwhile, yes, I gave our 8-year-old son a new iPad for Christmas. It was something we planned months ago, and he's been doing well in school. He uses it mostly for school apps, reading, and games. SD saw it and went completely quiet the rest of the evening. I asked what her problem was, and she just shrugged and said, "Nothing. I forgot what the rules are in this house." She's been testy ever since. I've tried to keep her busy. While she's here, there's always stuff to do. She watches our son, sometimes if we're both working late, or if I have errands. She helps fold laundry, does some dishes, and helps prep dinner occasionally. She's not doing anything outside of what I expect from any other 17-year-old. But last week, she made a comment that really ticked me off. We were talking about summer jobs, and I said she needs to find something part-time once she's moved in. I mentioned that we're feeding her, housing her, and giving her a phone, so it would be nice if she contributed. She cut me off and said, "I would, but I already work full-time here for free." I asked what that was supposed to mean, and she goes, "I babysit, clean, cook, and shop with you. You don't even pay me gas money when I help you run around all day." I told her she was being ungrateful and reminded her that she's not a guest, she's family. That comes with pitching in. I said my son doesn't pay to live here either, but he behaves with a lot more gratitude. She looked at me and said, "Your son isn't raising anyone else's kid." I told her that if she wanted to compare herself to an 8-year-old, maybe I should start setting my expectations lower. She just walked away. My husband tried to smooth things over, but he also told me he sees her point. He said the optics of giving our son a brand new iPad and handing her a flip phone weren't great, especially after everything she's been through. He suggested maybe getting her a cheap Android, just something decent that lets her text and take pictures. I don't like the idea of rewarding an attitude like that. She didn't say thank you and didn't even act appreciative during Christmas. She keeps saying I treat them differently, but I don't see it. My son's 8. She's 17. Of course I expect more from her. And she's not even my daughter, let's be honest. I took her in when no one else wanted her. And now she's sulking over a phone. Give me a break. The next few days were awkward. She barely spoke to me unless I asked her to do something. Didn't argue, didn't complain. But the silence was louder than anything. I asked her to take out the trash, fold laundry, and make lunch for her brother. She did it. But I could tell she was counting the minutes until she could get back to that couch. The kicker came when I asked her to clean out the fridge. She opened the door, looked at me, and said, "I'm not even living here full time, and I do more housework than anyone else." I said she doesn't get to talk about what's fair when she's living on other people's charity. She said, "No one's asking you to do it out of charity. You make it sound like you're doing a good deed every time I touch a mop." I told her if she wanted to start measuring everything, she could start paying rent. She said, "You already get free babysitting. That's payment." Then she walked off. She acts like watching her little brother for a few hours a week is some massive hardship. He's not a difficult kid. He's polite, listens, and doesn't throw tantrums. It's not like she's raising a toddler. I don't ask her to watch him so I can go on spa weekends. I'm running errands, picking up groceries, or working late so we can afford things like food and heat. My husband's trying to play both sides. He told me he understands why she's upset. He thinks I'm being too rigid. He keeps saying it's not about the phone. It's about the message that she's second tier in this house. I told him if she feels second tier, maybe it's because she expects first tier treatment without putting in anything. We don't owe her a smartphone. She's not working and acting like she's entitled to the same gifts as our 8-year-old just because she's here now. He asked me flat out if I'd have gotten her a real phone if she was our daughter. I said no. I'd still be concerned about her history of losing and breaking stuff. That's got nothing to do with DNA. But even if it did, I'm the one managing this household. I make the budget work. I decide what's a smart investment and what's a waste. He let it go. But the vibes changed. Since Christmas, she's been texting with her friend from the flip phone, but clearly hates using it. She asked again if she could trade it in and pay the difference with money from her savings. I said no. Her savings are for emergencies. I told her she should be grateful she even has a phone. Most of the kids in her old situation don't even have that. She said, "Yeah, and most of them didn't get left behind by their whole family either, so maybe don't compare." I didn't respond. What do you even say to that? Last week, I caught her using my son's iPad when he was at school. She was taking pictures with it. I told her to put it down. She said she was just helping him with one of his game apps. I said I didn't believe her. She said, "Yeah, no surprise there," and left the room. I don't feel sorry for her. She's 17, almost an adult. She needs to learn that just showing up doesn't mean you get handed every little thing you want. She wasn't grateful for Christmas. She doesn't appreciate the phone. And she acts like she's doing us a favor by staying here. Meanwhile, I'm paying for her food, her clothes, her rides, and eventually, her full-time stay. And now I'm the bad guy for not handing her a $300 phone. My husband's been quiet lately. He doesn't agree with how I handled it. But he's also not doing anything about it. The people she's staying with called a few nights ago. They said she's been really low lately. Not sleeping well, missing school, stopped talking as much. I asked if they thought she was depressed, and they said they think she's just overwhelmed. I offered to talk to her, but they said she didn't want to hear from me right now. I told my husband, and he thinks we should revisit the phone situation. He said maybe it's not about the tech, maybe it's about making her feel like she belongs here again. I told him I'm not bending just because she's upset. Life is upsetting sometimes. That doesn't mean you get everything you ask for. So now I'm here, writing this because everyone's dancing around the issue, and I'm wondering if I've really missed something here. She's 17 and hasn't had a phone before. Got handed one. Hates it. I said no to a tablet because she needed winter clothes, and the people she's staying with needed groceries. Our son got a new iPad for Christmas because he's 8, not 17, and it was planned. She does help out when she visits, but she's not doing anything above normal expectations. She's upset. My husband thinks I should have handled it differently. I think she needs to grow up a little and realize not everything in life is equal. So Reddit, Aita. Comments. Comment 1. YTA. I get wanting to be practical, but read your own post like you're a stranger. This kid got left behind by her mom, bounced couches, and now every interaction with you comes with a reminder that she's a cost and an inconvenience. The phone is almost irrelevant at this point. It's a symbol. Your 8-year-old gets a brand new iPad, no strings, no lectures, while she gets a hand-me-down flip phone and a running tally of what she owes you in chores and babysitting. You keep bringing up gratitude like it's currency. That's a fast way to make someone feel like they're only tolerated, not wanted. Also, saying she doesn't have a job while relying on her to watch your kid and keep your house running is hypocritical as hell. If someone's labor counts only when it's unpaid, that says more about the adult than the teenager. Comment 2. I don't think your intentions are malicious, but your execution is rough. You're treating this like a lesson in responsibility when it's really about reconnecting after abandonment. From your perspective, she's careless, ungrateful, and pushing limits. From hers, she's living in a house where she works constantly, gets compared to a child, and sees physical proof every day that she ranks lower. The flip phone makes sense on paper. In real life, it reinforces everything she's already afraid of, that she's temporary and conditional. You keep focusing on fairness and effort, while she's focused on whether she belongs. Those two conversations aren't even in the same universe. You're not wrong for wanting structure and expectations. But if the goal is to have a relationship with her after she turns 18, this approach is burning that bridge fast. Comment 3. You're pissed that your legally homeless stepdaughter didn't fawn at your feet when you gave her a 15-year-old flip phone because she used to lose things when she was 10. That's what you're mad about. Not disrespect, not entitlement, but that she didn't perform gratitude for a gesture that was more about you than her. She's in a town with no support system, living with strangers, still trying to graduate despite everything stacked against her, and you're keeping receipts on groceries and house chores. She asked for a tablet so she could have some kind of normalcy. You said no and pointed to socks. Your son got a brand new iPad. His comfort came first. Her dignity came last. And your husband? Spineless. He outsourced the decision to you, and then had the nerve to say you might have messed it up. The girl didn't commit a crime. She got left behind. You treat her like a nuisance to be managed. This wasn't about a phone, it was about how little you think of her. Comment 4. So you live in an affluent suburb, gave your son an iPad, but wouldn't even buy your stepdaughter a basic smartphone to connect with the outside world. You call yourself generous because you gave her a flip phone and paid for groceries. That's a bare minimum act dressed up like a noble sacrifice. And let's talk about the CPS thing. Your husband allowed his daughter to be raised in an abusive house. Didn't fight for custody, didn't keep tabs, didn't go to court. Then she got dumped, literally left behind. And the first thing you do when she reconnects is start measuring her worth in chores and gratitude levels. You mention her school is subpar, but it's more convenient for you if she stays there and graduates on time. Never mind if the education sucks, or if it's isolating your schedule matters more. You're not asking if she's okay. You're keeping score. She doesn't need a gift card. She needs adults who give a SHT about more than her attitude. Every decision you make is shaped around convenience and optics, not care. And yes, your husband should be paying child support to the people raising his daughter while he plays house with you. Update. I didn't expect to write an update this fast, but things unraveled quicker than I thought they would. And at this point, everyone around me has an opinion whether I asked for it or not. After the original situation with the phone, I stuck to my decision. I didn't replace it, didn't offer alternatives, and didn't soften my stance. I believed consistency mattered more than optics. My husband thought letting things cool off would help. I didn't. I started paying closer attention to how much SD actually did around the house during the breaks she stayed with us, and once I noticed it, I couldn't unsee it. She picked up after my son without being asked, made his lunches, helped with homework, and watched him when I ran errands. I began assigning things instead of letting them happen naturally. Clean the kitchen. Watch your brother while I'm gone. Fold the laundry before dinner. She stopped offering anything extra. She did exactly what I asked and nothing more. That irritated me more than outright refusal would have. I told her she could earn a better phone by showing responsibility. I was asked what that meant. I listed punctuality, attitude, chores, and participation. She asked if any of that had an end date. I said we'd revisit it later. She nodded and walked away. A week later, I found out she'd declined babysitting one evening when I had plans. She said she had an interview. This was the first I'd heard of a job. She got hired at a grocery store near the people she had been staying with before. Part-time, evenings and weekends. She rearranged her schedule without asking me. I told her having a job didn't mean she was excused from helping. She told me she'd no longer be available to watch my son. She said this calmly, which somehow made it worse. Then my parents got involved. They'd been pressuring me quietly to have her move in sooner rather than later. They knew the situation with her mother and kept referring to her as that little girl who got left behind. They told me she was my stepdaughter whether I liked it or not. They told me she needed one stable home before adulthood, and that it reflected poorly on me that she didn't already have it. I didn't appreciate being lectured in my own house, but they were insistent, and my husband backed them up. So she moved in. Within 2 weeks, the tension doubled. She went to school, went to work, came home, and stayed in her room. She was polite with my son, helped him when he asked, played games with him, and tucked him in if I was busy. With me, she spoke only when necessary. With my husband, conversations were short and practical. No warmth, no arguing, just distance. Then I found the phone. I was gathering laundry from her room while she was at work and saw a smartphone tucked into her bag. I took it and waited for her to come home. When she did, I asked her if she wanted to explain why she was hiding things. She said it wasn't hidden, it was hers, and she paid for it herself. I told her that living under my roof meant honesty. I took it away. She didn't cry. She didn't argue. She said, "Okay," and asked if she could go shower. My husband found out later and asked why I didn't talk to him first. I told him he'd already undermined me enough. He told me I was pushing too hard. I told him he was being weak again. Things blew up the following weekend when her mother came up in conversation. I said she should stop acting shocked by disappointment since she came from someone who abandoned her. She said that wasn't fair. I said she should stop pretending she didn't see where her behavior came from. She said at least her mother didn't pretend to care while keeping score. I told her she was unappreciative and always had been. I said some kids end up with the parents they deserve. She snapped back that she raised herself, while adults like me complained about inconvenience. I said she was acting like a W, running around, hiding phones, and thinking she didn't owe anyone anything. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. The word came out wrong, aimed at attitude, not sex, but it landed exactly how you'd expect. She froze. My husband told me to stop talking. My son heard enough to ask later why his sister was crying. She packed a bag that night. She hugged my son, told him she loved him, and told my husband she'd text him from work. She went back to the family she'd been staying with before and told them she wouldn't be returning. They called my husband, not me. My husband said things to me I won't repeat. He said she could end up couch surfing again. He said anything could happen. He said I crossed a line he couldn't defend. He said I was more concerned with winning than keeping her safe. I told him she made her choice. He said I forced it. Now my house is quiet. My son asks where his sister is. I tell him she's busy. My parents are furious. They said they didn't raise me to treat a child that way. I reminded them she wasn't my child. That didn't help. SD won't speak to me at all. She's polite to my husband, keeps conversation minimal, and sends updates about work and school. She hasn't asked to come back. She returned the flip phone. Left it on the counter with a note saying, I should give it to someone who needs it. My husband says she'd rather risk the streets than return. He says I should apologize. I don't think I should apologize for expecting respect. I think words got twisted and emotions got high. But now everyone is acting like I'm responsible for whatever happens next. Comments. Comment 1. She bought that phone. With her own money. You had no legal, moral, or personal right to touch it, let alone take it away like it was yours. She's almost 18. She's not your kid, not your employee, and definitely not your property. You didn't pay for it. You didn't maintain it. You didn't even acknowledge it existed until you decided it was your business. Then you snatched it and justified it under, my house, my rules. You crossed a line. That phone was her link to safety, to her job, and to her friends. You ripped it away over pride. You don't get to cry about her walking out when you made it unbearable to stay. You turned her independence into a threat and treated her growth like rebellion. And you think it's about a phone? No. It's about how you saw her trying to function on her own terms and couldn't handle not being the one calling every shot. If anyone took something you paid for and threw it back in your face, you'd explode. But when it's her, she's just supposed to sit there and say thank you. This wasn't discipline, it was disrespect. Comment 2. Calling a teenage girl a W should have ended this conversation. That's abuse. I don't care what tone you meant it in. That word came from your mouth. It was calculated, low, and meant to humiliate her into silence. If someone said that to your son in 10 years, you'd lose your mind. But when it's your stepdaughter, you excuse it as a heat-of-the-moment comment. No, that word sticks. You used it because it hurts. You wanted her to hurt enough to shut up. She left because she knew staying meant losing whatever was left of her dignity. And you think she's dramatic for not coming back. You think you're the victim now because your house is quiet. You should have been locked up the second that word left your mouth. If your husband had a spine, he'd have taken her side the minute it happened. You're lucky she just left and didn't take you to court for emotional abuse. That's how serious this is. Comment 3. You act like she should bow every time you toss her a scrap of effort. Like feeding her and giving her a place to sleep earns you sainthood. You didn't save her. You tolerated her. Barely. Every move she made was under a microscope. She folded your laundry and babysat your kid while you were calculating how to teach her a lesson. You weren't being a parent. You were flexing power and expecting obedience. Her thank you was supposed to sound like worship. Get off your pedestal. She didn't owe you reverence. Your husband watched it happen and did nothing. If he let you say that to his daughter, imagine what he'll let slide when your son pushes back at 16. That's your future. You've shown everyone what kind of parent you are when you don't get constant praise. Your son's watching, even if you think he doesn't understand. One day he will. He'll remember his sister left without a word, and no matter what you tell him, he'll start asking why. Comment 4. She's gone, and honestly, good for her. You never gave her a clean slate. Everything she did was filtered through this lens of who she used to be or what her mother did. Every step forward she took, you moved the goalposts. She stayed quiet, got a job, helped with your kid, and bought her own phone, and you still found a reason to cut her down. You walked into her space, took her property, and used a word people don't just slip out. Now you're shocked she left. She won't be back. And your husband's finally seeing what she lived with. This isn't fixable. You broke trust that wasn't even fully rebuilt. Her leaving wasn't dramatic, it was survival. Good luck explaining that to your son when he's old enough to ask why she never comes around. Update. A few of you said she probably reported me for taking her phone. You weren't wrong. I don't know if she actually filed anything, but I started getting strange calls from a blocked number right after I took it. Then someone from her school reached out to my husband, not me asking for clarification about her living situation. That's when I gave it back. When people started asking why she wasn't around, I told them she went back to her friend's house because she preferred looser rules. That lie didn't stick. My parents were the first to call it out. They said they'd spoken to her at church, not even their church, someone else's, and that she looked tired and thin. They asked what we were doing to help her. I said she's 17 and made her choice. My dad told me to stop pretending she was a stranger who happened to live in our guest room. I told him she was a guest. I didn't ask to raise her. She didn't fit in our house. She doesn't want to. After that, my parents stopped calling. They didn't come to my son's birthday either. Neither did my in-laws. Yes, I threw the party. Yes, I knew she wasn't coming. I still did it. I set everything up, ordered the cake, and handled the decorations myself. No one helped. My husband didn't even pretend to enjoy it. He stood around for photos, kept answering work calls, and left before we opened gifts. When my son asked why his sister wasn't there, my husband just said, "She's busy with work." Then he walked off. Not even an effort to make it seem like a happy day. That was the final straw. We fought that night. I told him I had tried to give his daughter a home, and she spat on it. He said she wanted stability, not a power trip. I reminded him that he was the one who left everything to me. The phone, the schedule, the move-in plan. He said I twisted everything until it was about punishment and loyalty. Then he said something he hadn't said in years. He told me I punish people when I don't feel wanted. And then, out of nowhere, he brought up my cheating. I thought we were past that. It was 8 years ago. He told me at the time he forgave me. That we'd move on. That it was a mistake, and we'd rebuild. He lied. He didn't move on. He buried it until it suited him. He looked at me and said, "You keep asking why she doesn't trust you. Maybe it's because I never fully did either." I left that night. Took the car. Took my son. Stayed in a hotel. Waited for him to call me and say something. He didn't. The next day, I told him I was filing. He just nodded and said okay. He didn't fight for it. Didn't try to fix anything. I gave him an out, and he took it like he was waiting for the excuse. We're mid-divorce now. No contact unless it's about our son, who, by the way, hates it. He goes back and forth between houses and cries at drop-offs. I get calls from school about behavior changes. He asks why everything's different. I don't have good answers. All I can say is we're figuring it out. I have no support. My parents won't even speak to me. They said I chose punishment over parenting. My brother said I broke the kid who needed me most. My husband's family stays neutral, which basically means they're on his side quietly. And yes, I know he's talking to his daughter again. I've seen the texts. I know they meet for lunch sometimes. She won't come near me. She won't respond to anything I send. I tried to explain. I tried to say things got out of hand. She left me on read. I asked my husband once more, like mocked him, if he really thought she'd forgive him after all this. He said he didn't care if she did. He just wanted to show up. I laughed. I told him it was pathetic how he suddenly found a conscience. I said she wasn't going to give him the fairy tale redemption he was chasing. He just said, "You're the one who needed her to kneel." Maybe I did. I don't know. I don't like the way this turned out. I don't like how I'm painted as the bad one, while everyone else gets to reinvent themselves. But I still don't think I was wrong for expecting some level of respect and gratitude in my own home. I didn't ask to raise her. I didn't chase her down when she left. I'm not going to start now. Let him be the hero. Let her pretend he always cared. Let my son carry the weight of everyone else's mess. I'm done carrying it for them. So there's your update. Judge away. Comments. Comment 1. You really think all this happened to you? That's your biggest flaw. You talk about your husband not begging, your parents turning away, your stepdaughter leaving, and your son crying, and at no point do you sit with the idea that maybe they had reasons. You reduce every consequence to drama or disloyalty. People begged you to stop pushing. They told you the punishment obsession was too much. You went through someone's things, weaponized a slur, and treated housing and parenting like favors to be repaid. Then when they walked, you said, "Fine, go." Now you're shocked they left. You say you didn't chase her down. Yeah, we noticed. You expected a child who'd been abandoned once already to tolerate emotional coldness and humiliation, just to earn basic decency. And she didn't. Good for her. Comment 2. You mocked your husband for trying to reconnect with his daughter after you alienated her in the first place. You think it's pathetic he didn't beg you to stay. Lady, you blew up your marriage over a power trip and thought he'd crawl back. He gave you the benefit of the doubt and trusted you to protect his daughter, and you treated her like an intrusion. Then when he called you out, you threw your past in his face, like he was too broken to have a say. You're shocked he didn't fall apart without you. You said she was a guest. You said she didn't fit. She heard you. Everyone heard you. You weren't a parent. You were the wall she hit every time she tried to breathe. Don't be surprised you're alone, just be glad she made it out before she internalized the version of love you tried to sell. Comment 3. You really want people to believe you're the only one who walked away hurt. But all I'm reading is someone who can't admit they burned every bridge with a smile. You weaponized your stepdaughter's trauma, held basic decency hostage, and expected praise for giving her scraps. Then you got furious when she chose to leave. You think you're strong for not chasing her, for not apologizing. That's not strength, that's ego. You treated parenting like a courtroom where you're the judge, jury, and executioner. And now you're stunned no one showed up to your little son's birthday like you were owed something. Your husband didn't beg you back because he finally saw the damage you left behind. Your parents aren't speaking to you because they watched you throw a vulnerable teenager to the curb over pride. And now your son's stuck between two households and emotional fallout he didn't create. But sure, laugh at your ex for trying to reconnect with his kid. At least he's doing something other than pouting in the ashes. You isolated yourself. You chose pride over repair. You created this outcome and still can't say, "Maybe I went too far." That's the saddest part. Update. I wasn't planning to update again. But the last year has been one long chain of decisions people keep blaming on me. So I'm putting it all in one place. My ex-stepdaughter is an adult now. She turned 18 months ago. Before anyone says it, yes, I'm aware that means legally she can do whatever she wants. That hasn't stopped everyone from continuing to drag me into her life and then judging me for reacting. Her father and I finalized our divorce shortly after my last post. He's moved on in the sense that he's calmer and more settled, but he's still single. He says he doesn't want to complicate things. I know what that means. I'm the complication he's quietly relieved to be done with. He rebuilt contact with his daughter after she left my house. She didn't forgive him. She tolerated him. They talk. They meet for coffee sometimes. She doesn't stay over. She doesn't come around when I'm there. I'm never mentioned, apparently. He says that's for the best. I don't agree. After she turned 18, I filed for a modification to the custody arrangement for my son. I didn't hide it. I said outright that I was concerned about the influence his father's other child might have on him, now that she was an adult with no direction and questionable choices. I framed it as protecting stability. The judge didn't see it that way. The filing backfired badly. My ex produced messages showing I'd been monitoring his daughter's online activity and commenting on it privately to him. Suddenly, it wasn't about my son's well-being anymore. I was told to stop involving myself in matters unrelated to my custody time. That warning didn't sit well with me. Around the same time, my ex tried to arrange a reconciliation lunch between me and his daughter. Neutral place, no expectations. I agreed, thinking it might finally clear the air. I arrived early. She showed up late, sat down, ordered water, and didn't look at me once. I tried to explain how overwhelmed I'd been back then. I brought up how hard it was to blend families, and how unsupported I felt. She listened without reacting. When I finished, she said she didn't come to be lectured or folded into my narrative. She said she came because her father asked her to, and that wouldn't happen again. A friend of hers recorded part of that lunch from another table. I didn't know until weeks later, when a clip started circulating privately in parent groups I used to belong to. It wasn't edited in my favor. The tone was flat, almost polite, which made it worse. I was painted as calculating. She was calm, detached, and unimpressed. I didn't threaten anyone with legal action, but I did demand the video be taken down. It vanished from public view, but the damage stuck. My relationship with my son has shifted too. He's older now, observant. He doesn't talk much at my house anymore. Answers questions without adding anything. Spends more time in his room. When he's with his father, he's apparently more relaxed. I hear this secondhand. He stopped calling me to chat when he's away. If I call him, he keeps it short. I used to blame his father for poisoning him. Lately, I'm not as sure. I tried to fix that by being more involved at his school. I volunteered again, joined committees, and made myself visible. I thought reminding people I'm an attentive parent would help. It didn't. A teacher pulled me aside and suggested I give him space. She said kids notice when adults talk too much for them. At some point, I realized my ex-stepdaughter was still tracking my social media, despite not speaking to me. I started checking hers more often. Screenshots added up. Nothing incriminating, just normal young adult behavior. Nights out. New friends. I sent a few anonymous, concerned notes to the family she was still close with, warning them she might need guidance. Those notes came back to bite me fast. They recognized my phrasing immediately. They forwarded them to her father. He called me furious and said I'd crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Dating hasn't gone well. A few dinners. A few men who said I seemed guarded. One who said I talked too much about loyalty. None stuck around. I tell myself that's fine. I'm selective now. The final blow came last month. I filed a request to change my son's last name to mine. I didn't spring it on him. I told him it would mean starting fresh. He didn't respond. He told his father instead. The court shut it down quickly. The report mentioned emotional pressure. That phrase keeps appearing in paperwork these days, like a shadow following me. I still believe I did what I thought was right at the time. I wasn't trying to destroy anyone. I was trying to keep my footing while everyone else reshuffled their priorities. But now I'm watching my ex rebuild bridges I burned, watching my son drift emotionally towards someone else, and watching his daughter live her life with no room for me in it at all. People keep telling me to let go, to move on, to accept my place in the story. I don't know how to do that when it feels like everyone else rewrote it without me. So I'm asking again, after all this time and fallout, am I really the RC hole here? Comments. Comment 1. You call it trying to be involved, when what you really mean is watching everyone else live without you, and then throwing wrenches into their peace. You didn't go to that lunch to reconcile, you went to reframe history with yourself in the hero seat. Your stepdaughter didn't perform pain or yell. She didn't give you anything to twist. That's why it hit you so hard. She's done being part of the story you keep rewriting. And your son, he's starting to figure it out. He's quiet because he's watching. He's remembering. The way you talk about reminding people you're a good parent makes my skin crawl. Kids don't need reminders, they need consistency. You lost that a long time ago, and instead of reflecting, you pulled the same tactics again with your son that you used on his sister. It didn't work then. It won't work now. You didn't just lose your stepdaughter. You're losing your son's trust too, one move at a time. Comment 2. You've spent years trying to prove you were right. And in the process, you made sure nobody wants to be near you. Every single move reads like a power play, filing legal paperwork out of spite. Volunteering at your son's school just to spin your version. Turning therapy into image management. You're still trying to win a fight everyone else walked away from. That lunch wasn't a truce, it was bait. You wanted her to explode so you could play the part of the wounded stepmom again. Instead, she stayed calm and let you twist in your own silence. You hated that. Your ex moved on emotionally the day you made your marriage transactional. Your son's quiet now because somewhere in all this, he realized love in your house comes with a checklist. You didn't lose people because you were misunderstood. You lost them because you made everything conditional. Second story. My entitled mom divorced my dad and abandoned me to care for my grandma 16 years ago. And now wants to see my baby and have a relationship with me. Backstory. My mom divorced my dad when I was 11 because she did not want our grandma to move in with us. She was afraid of being a carer, but she did not push for primary custody and left me living in an environment she did not want to live in. It was rough, and during the time I did end up becoming a carer, which I understand is why she left. But she left me to live the life she herself did not want. For a time I did resent my dad, but as I grew up, I grew to understand why he did what he did. Grandma was awesome and was full of love. I still don't forgive my mom, though. I understand why she made the choice to leave, but I will always hold it against her that she left me in an environment she wanted no part of herself. 3 years ago, my husband and I welcomed a beautiful baby girl. My dad, aunts, and uncles think I should let my mom meet her grandchild. My dad was always a better person. He never held it against her, but I still do. I don't hate what my life was, but I do hold it against her that she left me to live in an environment she herself was not comfortable with. Everyone tells me it has been 16 years, and it's time for me to let it go. I have not spoken to her in those 16 years. She was not even invited to my wedding. I don't know. My dad agrees it is okay for me to not have a life with my mom, but he feels I should not cut my mom off from her grandchild. I am torn. Comments. Comment 1. If I understand this correctly, your mother didn't want to care for her mill and bailed, which seems reasonable to me. Your father then forced you to care for her, and you are blaming your mother. Definitely blaming the wrong person. Comment 2. Based off the post and comments, she is upset her mother bailed and left her. She also ignored her when she voiced her concerns about what was going on. Both parents suck, but the mother is a special breed for leaving her daughter in that situation. What exactly was the OP supposed to do? They were 11. Comment 3. Leaving the daughter with the father who she is okay with. If she was left in a SHTTY situation, why isn't the person who is providing the SHTTY situation at least as much to blame? Comment 4. So you're mad at your mom for leaving you to be a caretaker, but not mad at your dad for actually making you be a caretaker. That seems pretty illogical and hypocritical to me. YTA. Comment 5. Did you read the post? She is mad at her mother for leaving and not taking her. Check out her comments. She told the mom how horrible the situation was, and she did nothing. So what choice did the OP have as an 11-year-old? She had nowhere else to go. People told her to be careful, or she could end up in foster care. So she grew to accept her new normal and, in the process, came to accept her situation, which probably made it easier to forgive her father, especially after she appeared to form a positive relationship with the grandma. Update. I know I was defensive, but many of the comments got me thinking. Originally, I had no intention of reaching out to my mom, but I briefly saw her at my cousin's house. She recently had a baby boy. I asked if she wanted to have breakfast one day and talk. She said yes, so we did. Right off the bat, I did ask her the big question. Why did she leave me? She told me my dad was no saint, but he was not abusive. She explained to me that the situation was complex. She told me he was trapped by his cultural obligations and sense of duty to his mom. She told me how he would not listen to her because that was his mom and she needed help. She told me how she tried to come up with a compromise, like her getting a place nearby and us hiring some help. He said that would cost too much. She told me his final compromise was she would move, and they would hire help to reduce the burden. She just said she could not agree to that. I did ask why she didn't stay and see how things went. She told me if she did stay, she never would have left. She would have felt the need to stay to protect me. She admits it was selfish of her, and a regret she has. But at the time, she did not want to feel trapped. I asked her why she did not fight for more custody and why she ignored my cries for help early on. She told me in her heart of hearts, she felt I was better off with him overall. She said I was able to stay in the same school, be in the same neighborhood with my friends, and have a lovely house. She also said due to my age, he realistically was not able to force me to do a lot of the caregiving until I was older. She thought that would buy her some extra time to get her situation better. She regrets not telling me that, because by the time things got stable for her, I was already in HS and thought less of her. She did apologize and told me she wished she had tried harder, but she felt leaving was her only way out. I also asked if the situation was so bad, she felt the only thing she could have done was leave, why she is still friends with Dad. She told me she did not leave him because she did not love him as a person. She left because she did not love what he was trying to do and wanted no part of it. We spoke about other things, but more or less I am conflicted. She did ask to meet up again for her birthday on the 29th. I told her maybe. I do appreciate her not asking to see my child. I have other things I want to ask. So maybe I will meet up with her again. But I don't know. I still feel anger towards her. I don't think her reasons are very good. But I am also still bitter. So I don't know. I still cannot hate my father. And it also seems like my mother does not hate him either. Comments. Comment 1. I don't think I understand the logic. She was concerned that if she stayed, she'd feel compelled to stay and protect you. So she left because she wasn't compelled to protect you, which she absolutely did not. To say this another way, rather than giving it a shot, and if it doesn't work out, having to leave, I decided to just skip all that, abandon you now, and not worry about it. She decided that she did not want to care for her mother-in-law, and she'd rather give up her entire life and place that eventual burden on her child you than do it herself. She seems to have a lot of regrets about all the things she didn't do, now that it's too late to do anything about it. She wants you to think she's a better parent. She just didn't want to actually have to be a better parent. Now, she's hoping to just sweep it all under the rug. You can try to continue this relationship if you want. But you should understand that this whole thing is still all about her getting what she wants. So don't be surprised if you discover that down the road. Comment 2. That was the most damning thing. She left because she would be too compelled to stay to protect OP, and she would never leave. So she decided to leave OP unprotected in a situation that would make her stick around in a divorce-worthy situation to keep her safe normally. So she left before things got bad, and her motherly instincts kicked in. Now add that nowhere in her justification was any mention of not getting along with her mill. OP also described her as full of love. That makes it less likely she ever made an honest attempt at compromise. If she was selfish enough to abandon her child, she was too selfish to make proper attempts to compromise and offer good and reasonable solutions. Comment 3. So she abandoned you before she stayed long enough to feel enough for you that she was compelled to protect you. She thinks that is a good thing. That she knew you needed protecting, but didn't want to stick around long enough to do it. What a terrible set of reasoning. I don't see what you get out of a relationship with her. Your anger is justified. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.